Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. My name is Sam Lance, and I'm joined by Jackson Bezdek once again. And Bez, we got the first action of the season. Kansas played Arkansas, and there's a lot of things that we have taken away from that. And we got another upcoming week of Kansas basketball with the Washburn exhibition. So let's just go ahead and get into it, Bez. Episode 43 of The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast, coming up. All right, Jackson, let's go ahead and get into it. Kansas loses to Arkansas 85-69 in Bud Walton Arena on Friday night. Boogie Fland, DJ Wagner, both with huge games, 20-plus points. DeJuan Harris actually ended up being the highest scorer in the game with 26, and the only other KU player in double figures was Raquise Passmore. Obviously, not the result that KU fans were wanting to see, but I'll just ask you this. We'll start here, Jackson. How worried are you about that result?
Not worried. Hunter Dickinson's not in the lineup. Rylan Griffin's not in the lineup. Shaquille Moore's not in the lineup. Those are three guys that are going to get minutes, and obviously rotations are going to look way different. Offense is going to look way different. We didn't even run any offense, but not worried at all. Quick shout out to Boogie Fland. First guy I ever statted when he was a sophomore in high school. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I Googled him and I was like, oh, Kansas is in on him. And so I was really excited to watch him. And then he destroyed us. So
He's a guy.
Yeah, shout out to Boogie, my first guy, my first Nike EYBL experience. So that was cool to see. But yeah, the only thing I'm actually concerned about is the defense. It wasn't great, but specifically Zeke Mayo. He didn't look great on defense. He hit his first shot of the night. So I was like, okay, great. Here we go. And then he did not play well the rest of the night. He got lost on switches. He on ball was just not good. So I wanted to dig into the Summit League a little bit, Sam. And, you know, the Summit League was really, really bad last year. Zico's at, what do you average? 18, 19 points a game. That was all great. The average, this is all according to KenPom, the average median of Summit League teams, 263rd in the country defensively. That's really bad. The 263rd team was Florida International, who was 11-22, and they gave up 77 points per game. So that was the Summit League average on the defensive side of the ball. In terms of like against other conferences, pretty much towards the bottom. Only the Atlantic Sun and Big Sky were worse in terms of like team defenses throughout the conference. So essentially, it's the third worst defensive conference. So to say all of this, strength of schedule was in the 260s conference-wise. That means they're really bad. Just in general, Summit League, other than Oral Roberts, one tournament win ever in its existence. I say all of this to say Zeke Mayo is going to need some time. It's going to be, I think, a month or two before he looks comfortable. He's just never seen, especially Arkansas and the athletes they have. That was a completely new world for him. So he didn't look good and he's going to need time was a big takeaway I had.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke might not have a lot of time because we got UNC, we got Duke, we got Michigan State coming up. But yeah, I tend to agree. I'm a little bit worried about the defensive side of things for Zeke Mayo. To be honest, Bez, offensively, I still think Zeke Mayo is going to get his. Like one of the biggest things in this game, how many times did Kansas throw the ball to the post?
Like zero. Your post player is not playing. The only post entries were on lobs in the exhibition.
Zeke Mayo needs Hunter Dickinson in the lineup to be as effective as he's going to be. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. That we talked about it kind of already. I'm not concerned because of this tweet from Chris Tehan. Chris Tehan basically pulled out the pros and cons of the game. And this is what Tehan said. He said, pros, we only ran motion offense, didn't run one set. Cal coached all night, Self didn't. I think that was very evident watching.
No, yeah. Yeah, that last point
Kansas
especially.
did not run any sort of resemblance of a set play. He said some of the cons was defense equals you, which we'll get into that later, and that Kansas doesn't have a late clock score yet. So really the thing to take away from Chris Tehan here is the fact that Kansas wasn't running offense. I mean, it didn't look good, Jackson. I mean, we were coughing up the ball like it was just really bad offensive basketball to watch. And I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway. Like Kansas just didn't run anything.
No, and didn't hit shots either. And back to your point about Dickinson being in the lineup, that's going to help Zeke. Yes, it's also going to help AJ. It's going to help Diggy. It's going to help Shaquille and Ryland when they're in there. That just sets up a lot of catch and shoot opportunities, which Zeke is more than capable of doing. If they're all of these guys are more than capable of hitting catch and shoot threes when they're open. They just weren't really that open against Arkansas because there was no action. There was no in and out. It was just kind of swing, swing, shot or swing, swing, penetrate, which is not Kansas Bill Self. That's never, ever been. It never will be how Kansas operates offensively. So, and to Tehan's point, they hardly showed Bill Self mic'd up at all. He probably wasn't saying a whole lot. Calipari was like, boom, this is it. And he was on the floor. He was coaching up a ton. He was way louder than Bill. It was evident from the broadcast that it was a little more important for Arkansas to play well than it was for Kansas.
It was Calipari's first game. I mean, Arkansas needed. I think Arkansas needed to win that game. And to be completely honest, I think Bill Self would have rather had what happened to Kansas in this game for teaching point
100%.
purposes than Kansas just going out and playing unbelievable and destroying Arkansas. Now he can say, "Hey guys, we're preseason number 1. But we're not very good at what we need to be good at. So let's get better at it." And I think that's a huge thing. So to sum it up, no, we're not worried. Like we are just not worried at all. If it looks like this, whenever Kansas plays Duke and North Carolina and Michigan State, then we can start being like, okay, because Bill Self wants to win those games. He even said in his press conference today, like those are games that you want to win. So I'm not worried. The one thing that I am just a little concerned about is defensively. I mean, we could not guard the ball to save our lives in that game. Boogie Fland was doing his thing, just really getting whatever he wanted. DJ Wagner was getting whatever he wanted. Defensively, it's not looking great right now, Bez. It's not looking great.
And the concerning part of that is it's switching and stuff like that and help side. That's supposed to not look great in your first exhibition game. That's going to happen. The on-ball stuff, like DeJuan, really? You're going to let Boogie cook you that many times? A freshman and you're a fifth-year senior? No backbone there from DeJuan. Now, he's probably not worried losing sleep about any of it because that was not 100% defense DeJuan Harris that we're going to see this year. But just in general, it was a lot of middle drives too. Just guys closing out and letting them go middle. I mean, that's unacceptable for any game it should be. So like Bill was probably genuinely upset about that. Like, you're right. This is exactly how he crafted this and how he planned for it to go. But I'm sure he was hoping for a little bit better on-ball defense. I mean, that stuff and the pick and roll, we don't even have to talk about that. Everybody already knows.
Bill Self said today in his press conference, he was asked by, I think it was Swain, what did he learn from the Arkansas game? He said, we haven't figured out yet how to guard a ball screen, and our transition defense was very poor. And that was very evident. I mean, I really don't know what Kansas was doing to guard ball screens. I believe Tehan tweeted something about this as well. He said, defensively, we look lost. I can't tell if we are drop hedging or downing and bumping the roll man. Not a good sign, but it's still an exhibition.
They were not doing either of them. And the worst part is you're about to throw in Hunter Dickinson into that, who's probably one of the worst bigs in the country at actually dropping. And Flory was like in the middle. Like, I don't know what he was even told before, because clearly that was going to be a point of emphasis for Arkansas. And Flory wasn't in the right spot hardly any times. Now I was excited because he's crazy athletic and long that he can actually make up for some of those, unlike Hunter, who's not that athletic or long. But it was tough. And that's something that we can be concerned about. Like, say exhibition, whatever. But hey, that's 8th grade stuff, guys. Come on.
Yeah, let's go a little bit more positive here, Bez. Let's talk about some of the positive takeaways from this game. And my biggest one is DeJuan Harris like really looks like he improved scoring the basketball. And he looks like he has a lot of confidence in doing it. I mean, there's a stretch of time where DeJuan Harris willed Kansas back into the game. Like Kansas got within like 12 points, and
Absolutely.
then KJ had those two turnovers
Yeah.
that ended up in buckets on the other end, and then the game was over. But DeJuan Harris, for a big stretch of that game, was carrying Kansas offensively. And this was the biggest thing for me, Bez. Last year, we would talk about this so much. DeJuan has an open three, and what did he do most of the time? He hesitated, he drove, he made a play. There was no hesitation from DeJuan Harris in this game. Like he had a three and he was letting it go and letting it fly. And I really do think that that is a really good positive to see for Kansas.
No, I completely agree, Sam. He looks a little differently offensively, even aggressively going to the basket, which he's always been one to, try and get his at the rim. And he's got a nice little layup package, but he was going hard at the rim. Now, I think some of that is come out of halftime. You look at the scoreboard and that freshman over there is completely kicking your ass and you kind of kick it into gear. That's where some of that confidence came from, I think. But good if that we know that that's there, right? That's the big takeaway is we know that that exists. Kentucky game last year, you and I still talk about it. That was a lot of just open threes and shooting because they were leaving them open. Last night was way different. DeJuan was able to get his own last night in the second half, or not last night, whenever it was. Ugh. Last night was worse. Freaking football game. Anyway,
Another positive was Rakis, Bez. I mean, he was incredible in my eyes. He played 19 minutes. That was like probably the fifth or sixth highest minute total. And he had the most offensive rebounds with four. He had 6 rebounds, only behind Flory, who had 7. And he had 11 points. The only other person who would score in double figures. Bill Self said that after the game, he was Kansas's best player. What did you just see from Rakis, Bez? What did you like about him?
I want all of the rookies past more minutes. I'm buying stock in all of those minutes. I've been buying stock since he committed. Couldn't be more like it's one thing to be excited about a guy, and it's one thing to be excited about a guy, and then he shows out in your exhibition when really no one else is. You can see from the way he plays, he's not like a super pure ball handler, not a super take you off the dribble, but he's super active. He's a guy kind of, I don't want to say like Furphy, but can clean up a lot of stuff, can crash the glass, is going to get a lot of tip balls. He's open under the rim because he's just playing hard. That's how he's going to get some of his points. But defensively, I'm really excited about him because they were saying this on the broadcast. He's very, very coachable. And Bill kind of pulled him aside, yelled at him a couple times, and he had great reaction, great response to Bill when he was doing that. He's going to be a guy off the bench for Kansas on both sides of the ball. I think that goes for both freshmen. I was just as impressed with Flory. The ball screen stuff, and he looked lost a couple times. Big Z on Arkansas was a top recruit last year and was a huge deal when he finally got to play and got healthy for Kentucky. He's a dude. He will be in the NBA. So that's a pretty large task for Flory game one. But I thought he handled it really well. And I thought Kansas missed him on like 4 or 5 lobs in the first half offensively, where he could have had an easy 10 points.
Yeah, with Rakis, I didn't know he was as good of a shooter as he is. Like his jump shot looks nice. Like it looks
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's confident in shooting it. This is what I kind of think. What Rakis Passmore did in that game is exactly what Bill Self wants and needs AJ Storr to be. Like AJ Storr needs to be, and Self has already said he needs to be. He thinks he could be one of the best offensive rebounders in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he should be able to be one of the best defenders in the country just with his athleticism and size. So if I'm Bill Self, I'm saying, hey, AJ, like you see what Rakis did in this game? Like that's what we need from you. And if you do that, you'll average 15 to 16 points and not even know that you're doing it.
Yep.
So I think that's a big thing that we could take away from this.
I completely agree with you. You kind of, I mean, you kind of can just go up to AJ and be like, hey, why can't you be the best two-way wing in America? Why not? Why can't you? There's really no reason. you take the core from last year, right? What's the problem last year? There's no bucket getter on Kansas. Nobody that's like, shoot, we need a shot. Let's go to him. That doesn't exist, McCullough or whatever, but that didn't exist last year for Kansas. This season, I think AJ Storr can be that guy. I think Zeke Mayo is what T-Han's talking about. Late shot clock, 4 seconds. We need somebody to throw up a grenade. I think that's Zeke. But in terms of like, all right, let's get a bucket. Let's get somebody in some motion. Let's get somebody a ball screen. Let's get somebody coming off the screen. I think that's going to be AJ. And I think you're exactly correct. 15, 16 is kind of where I have him too, maybe even 14. But like in that range, that Kansas needs that. That's not a, oh, that would be great. No, that is a need, AJ. They need 14 out of you because guess what? You guys don't look great defensively. So you're probably going to have to get 80 to 85 a game, especially in the Big 12, right? Like if you're not going to, I don't know. I think it's got to be AJ because we know it's not going to be DeJuan. He's going to be more, but he's not going to be that guy. It's not going to be KJ, and Hunter is going to be Hunter, right? You still need that guard wing super scorer, and I think AJ needs to step into that role.
And he could get 6 to 8 points just from being active on the offensive glass. I think
Yep.
4 to 6 of Rakese's points were just from being on the offensive glass. So Self also spoke today. He spoke to the media just over a couple hours ago, and he said that he thinks he has AJ messed up right now. He's thinking instead of reacting.
Totally.
And I do think we kind of saw that in the Arkansas exhibition. He wasn't necessarily aggressive. And basically what kind of Self was saying today along those lines is what he thinks is aggressive and what AJ thinks is aggressive.
Right.
It's kind of different right now. So, once they figure that out,
right,
man, like
that it's a whole portal learning curve. That's the thing. AJ, see, for Zeke, the game looked fast for Zeke, which is what concerned me. For AJ, the game just didn't look fluid. It looked really stagnant. It didn't look like, not that he didn't know where to go, but he didn't know where he fit, right? DeJuan had the ball a lot. DeJuan was controlling the ball a lot. AJ's first game was like, okay, DeJuan, you've been doing this for a few years. I'm going to just play off you. That's not what we need, AJ. We need you to be AJ Storr. That's why we bring you in. So Bill's right. You got to figure that out. And Bill will. I mean, come on. He's done it with players with a lot more complications than AJ Storr. So I'm not worried about AJ. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm really not that worried about the newcomers at all. I mean, they need time. They need time to get accustomed. The way Bill Self plays is not the way that a lot of programs play. So they just need a little bit of time. And starting off the season with 3 really big games, even if Kansas goes 1-2, 0-3 in those games, I think just the learning experience of going through them and having the newcomers playing those games and just get the reps is going to be really huge. Another thing that just kind of going back to the Arkansas exhibition that we kind of talked about already, but Self said that the Arkansas game was about as good and tough a situation as you could have for an exhibition. And he said, quote, it was healthy for Kansas to experience that game. And I agree. That game, there's so many teaching moments. There's so much that Kansas can learn from that game. And I think against Washburn, I know it's Washburn, but we're going to see a lot of these things. It's going to be a whole different animal. And then we got Howard and then North Carolina. So.
No, yeah, I agree. I like that you play that game. You can play your Washburn exhibition, right? You can't just have the Washburn exhibition because those new environment, going to have a bad shooting night, tough environment, tough crowd, new shooting backdrops. You just got all that out of the way in your exhibition game. None of that mattered. So now that first game in Vegas or at the Champions Classic, when you're shooting terribly, now like that's less likely to happen because you just got those first game jitters out of the way. That felt like first game jitters for all those guys. That's the important part.
I want to ask you this, Bez. Do you think that AJ Storr starts next game? Do you think Kansas changes the lineup at all? The starters were DeJuan, Zeke, AJ, KJ, Hunter, and Flory. For the Washburn game, do you think it changes? Because just really quick, Bill Self did say that Hunter Dickinson, he practiced yesterday, but he will likely not play against Washburn. So Kansas will be without Hunter Dickinson, and then Rylan Griffin and Shaquille Moore. Bill Self says he sees both of them playing tomorrow night. They may be limited, but they will play. So what do you just think? Do you think AJ Storr will remain in the starting lineup?
Totally. I think just based off of what you just told me, I don't see there's any reason to change it. You can like there's an argument that Rylan like there's not even an argument. Rylan's in the conversation for sure, and probably has been all of summer and fall camp. So I think that's the guy you want to look for. But if he's going to be limited, you might as well just bring him off the bench because you might be bringing him off the bench anyway. So I think it stays the same. I think if you don't see huge progression from Rylan, or yeah, I guess just Rylan / he's not actually hurt, we've just kind of been keeping him out. Then I think maybe that's a conversation for the Howard game. But for now, I think this is going to be the starting five, and then Dickinson for Flory whenever Dickinson's healthy, obviously. But yeah, when Rylan's full go, the Zeke, AJ, Rylan triangle, I think that can be interchanging all season based off of who Bill likes at the moment.
Yeah, and I honestly like a lineup where it's those three guys in Dewan and Hunter Dickinson, or those three guys in Dewan and Flory. Like that is
that's
a
the hard
lineup
conversation.
that I think could be KU's best lineup this year.
It will be.
I know that doesn't include KJ, and KJ is going to be a starter, and he is going to play a lot. But I think that we will find out that lineup might be Kansas's best lineup this season.
I think it's going to be, and I think that's the hard conversation because the KJ elephant in the room is just sitting right there, and nobody wants to talk about it because KJ is the most important player to this program aside from Dewan.
The spacing with him and Flory on the court together did not look great.
Dude, and like the ball's in his hands too much. I know we like that a little bit because he's really athletic, but he's not a playmaker. Like he's not a pure. Like he can do it, but it was just in his hands way too much against that athletic of a team. When he gets his athleticism matched, that's a problem because he has an advantage over 98% of the country, right? That 2%, of course, Calipari is going to have a little bit of that 2%. So he can kind of get matched against Arkansas, and that's why it looks super not good because he's not able to out-athlete those guys, but he will be against a lot of guys. I actually broke this down, Sam. I've got KJ starting, but playing less minutes than both Rylan and AJ, and then tied with Zeke when I did my minutes breakdown. So I think that's what we're going to see. He will start, yes, but the five that you like, I think those are the 5 biggest minutes that Kansas is going to have.
Yeah, just to your point, with kind of the turnovers from KJ and kind of being that playmaker, he had 4 turnovers in that game against Arkansas, and 2 of them, like I said, were in a pretty critical. If Kansas was going to win the game, like that just wiped it away right there. I'm also looking at the stat sheet, and Zach Clements played 10 minutes and also had 4 turnovers. Honestly, one of the biggest takeaways from that game is that Zach Clements might be just unplayable this season.
100%.
Like
that was rough. And I think another one is the Jamari red shirt is on the table and then some. He did not look good either. That's such a great, like, go against the best athletes literally in the country. Arkansas is just Kentucky, everyone. It was literally just Kentucky. It was literally Kentucky in maroon. So all of those Kentucky athletes that everybody talks about, that was who Kansas just played. So you just saw a lot of guys who probably aren't going to be important players for Kansas down the road look completely lost and out of place in that game. And Jamari and Zach Clements are not good Big 12 basketball players. I'm sorry. Just they're not right now.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Bill Self, after the game, said, that Arkansas's trio of guards is the best trio of guards they'll play all season. I tend to agree with that. Like, those guards are good.
They're also why aren't they top 10? Good Lord, they were good.
That's exactly where I was going. Yeah. Arkansas is regarded as like a top, 20 team? What are they in the AP?
I think they were 14th, 16th, maybe. They were like mid-teens. I was like, what?
Like, Bill Self even said it. Like, Calipari's had some elite teams at Kentucky, and he said that team might be his best team that he's had. And I agree. I mean, they got dudes on the team.
No, yeah.
Like those 3 guards with Brazil and Big Z, like that starting 5 is
great lineup. That's it. And then you got what,
And
the
then you
FAU,
got five
John L.
stars
Davis
coming off the
off the
bench.
bench. Like John L.
Dilly,
Davis can get
Carter
20 any game
Knox.
he wants. Yeah, I texted somebody. I said Kansas looks like number 4 team in America right now, and Arkansas looks like 7. You know, like if you want to redo the rankings and everybody for Kansas is healthy, yeah, that doesn't really look like number 1. Arkansas needs to be probably top 8. I mean, that team is loaded with athletes, and it's not just Calipari athletes that he's had. Like Boogie Fland, that guy's gonna be a lottery pick, man. Like that kid's a bucket.
Yeah. I thought it was funny for Calipari's press conference. He opened with, hey, let's not do triple backflips here. Kansas was without some of their best players. Let's not overreact.
Right.
I'm overreacting.
It,
I think
it's
Arkansas is
different.
really good. Like I'm gonna overreact. I
No,
think
that's
Arkansas
fine.
might be a top 5 team in the country
But
right now.
you're overreacting based on your eye test, not based on, oh, they beat Kansas by 20. They must be way better. No, no, no. I watched every second of that game. Those guys are freaking hoopers. Those guys are going to be really good this year because not only like they made Kansas look terrible sometimes. It's like Boogie made DeJuan Harris look like a freaking bad on ball defender, which is not what DeJuan Harris is. Like those guys are good. That's not an overreaction, in my opinion.
Yeah, a couple more things to go over really quick. We kind of mentioned the Jamari red shirt. Bill Self discussed it briefly today, and he says he still doesn't know. But Saturday or Sunday, so over this coming weekend, that's whenever those decisions will likely be made. So that's a big thing. Yeah, the one of my biggest takeaways that we kind of talk about is just the paint touches thing. Like I don't think you guys realize just how important having Hunter Dickinson and not even Hunter Dickinson, just anybody to throw the ball to in the post, get the defense to think inside. And Kansas just didn't have that. And, that's why AJ struggled. That's why Zeke struggled. So again, exhibition game. We're going to take it with a grain of salt. Not concerned about this team at its current state. Once we get those guys back, the 3 guys like Shaquille Moore would have been huge in this game. He's one of our
Right.
best defenders. He would have been a
He's
guy
gonna get more minutes.
in
He's
this
gonna
game.
get more minutes than Diggy probably, and we saw a lot of Diggy. Like you're gonna get a little bit better than what Diggy gives you for a little bit more time when Shaquille comes back.
And I also really thought that Diggy on the ball defensively was actually pretty impressive in
No,
that
I
game.
completely
I thought
agree.
he did a pretty good
He
job.
plays his ass off, dude. He's gonna be awesome off like that Shaquille Diggy little tandem off the bench. I'm really really excited about.
What one thing Self said today is, for those big games that Kansas has upcoming, he really wants to win them, and he might play 8 guys. He might play 9. He might play 10. Who are the 8 guys? Because I feel like it's really hard. It's really hard to figure out who that would be. I mean,
I
you obviously got DeJuan Mayo, Storr, KJ, and Hunt, and then you got Flory as the backup big.
yeah,
Like
Rylan Griffin.
Rylan
Rylan makes
Griffin,
7, and then
trade
you have
this team
if you're
to
gonna go
8,
8, you have to pick between Shaquille and Diggy.
but then you got Rakis too, who I
Like
think
why? Like that's so crazy, you know? Because if you go 9, then are you still picking between Shaquille and Diggy, and you're throwing Rakis in there? Like 10 is probably you. Self has 2 teams, right? His backups, it's going to be Zeke Floor or Zeke Rylan or AJ. That's the wing spot, and then Diggy and Shaquille are guards, and then Rakis can kind of play a bigger wing, and then Floor is your big. Like that's going to be your bench right there. That's a lineup, right? Those are positionals that make sense. It makes sense to go 10 if you want to, is what I'm saying.
yeah, I think Kansas goes 10 for most of the season. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can limit like I don't think you can limit Rakis to not getting on the floor.
Because the
Like
problem is, if you do, and he portals, he's starting next year for somewhere good, and he's going to be awesome, and you're going to be like, oh, right? But you know, like Shaquille and Diggy are good enough to come off your bench and play 8 to 12 minutes, but that's not going to happen every game for both of those guys. So that's a hard decision you're going to have to make.
yeah. Keeping everybody happy is going to be it's going to be a struggle for
But
Bill
at the
Self this
same
season.
time, one of those Rylan, AJ, Zeke triangles are going to be playing poorly at some point. So that's going to be a doghouse situation, right? Shaquille Diggy, they don't look great in 3 games. They're in the doghouse. Flory looks lost all of a sudden. Now he's in the doghouse. Like this stuff changes really fast once games start going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really all we have to kind of wrap up the Arkansas Kansas exhibition. Of course, Washburn is coming up here tomorrow on Tuesday. And then from there, you got Howard. You got the big one against North Carolina at 6 p.m. inside Allen Fieldhouse. Man, I
Whoa.
cannot wait until that game. And that game will be the teller. Like that one will be the, okay, where really is Kansas at right now? You know, what does the ceiling of this team look like? I think kind of more of those questions will be answered in that North Carolina game. So stay with us, y'all. We're going to do some fun KU Jayhawks in the NBA trivia at the under 4 here. Jackson is going to try to make me look like a dummy, and I'm going to try my best to not. So stay with us, y'all.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
All right, y'all. We are back with the hum and the under 4 timeout. Time to bring out the KU Jayhawk flag because I got some KU NBA trivia for Sam Lance here. I was like, Sam, let's do a who we play for segment like TNT does. And then Sam was like, I probably know where everyone's at. And I'm like, yeah, probably. Do you know Markeith's still in the league, though? And then Sam Lance was like, no, I didn't know Markeith was in the league. And I'm like, I didn't either. So I've got 3, Sam, 3 for you. Markeith Morris, who he play for?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and it seems like every single time a Jayhawk ends up in Utah for no reason, like just gets banished to the Utah Jazz. I'm gonna go with the Utah Jazz. I have no idea if that's correct.
It's incorrect. He's on the Dallas Mavericks. He was last year too. He has combined for 0 minutes in his past 50 games, but he's on the roster. Year 14 for Markeith. Shout out Markeith, man. 14 years in the league. Love that.
And
Next
Marcus
one.
is on the Clippers, correct? Right?
Marcus is done.
Oh,
As of right now, he's not rostered.
wow.
Right. That's crazy. Next one. Sviatoslav Mikhailuk, who he played for. Now, he did just win a championship with the Boston Celtics last year, where he also got 0 minutes. He is now on a new team, so it's not the Celtics. Who is it?
Oh man. I feel like I saw a report about this like not too long ago, to be completely honest. Like
I think it was recent as well, like August-ish.
He didn't go to Toronto, did he?
He did not join the boys in Toronto. It is hilarious that you said Utah for your last answer because Svi is now a Utah Jazz.
Of course he is. Of course he is. That makes, yes, of course.
You were right. Jayhawks do end up in Utah.
It is the weirdest phenomenon of all time. Like I can't handle it. If another Jayhawk gets drafted or goes to the Utah Jazz, I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
There's my Doak Utah Jazz jersey. He ended up there for a bit. All right, my last one.
I'm 0 for 2. This is going great. This is going great.
Now, to call this man a Jayhawk would be a stretch, but he did play here. Quentin Grimes. Who he play for?
Is he not on the Knicks anymore?
He's not on the Knicks anymore. He actually got traded to the Pistons last year, and he's no longer on the Pistons.
Oh my Jesus. I mean, I have no idea. I literally have zero idea where Quentin Grimes is playing basketball.
I didn't know any of these either, to be fair. I'm laughing at you, but I also did not know them. So he's on Dallas as well.
Okay.
He's a Mav. So we got 2 Jayhawks on the Mavericks. Also 2 Jayhawks in Toronto. Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji. Now, both of them are starting for the Raptors. Say what you will about what that makes you think of the Raptors, but they're both starting right now for the Raptors. Who is averaging more points / minutes between the two this season?
Grady. Grady's having a good year.
Grady is having a good year, Sam. They are both averaging 27 minutes a game, but Grady's averaging 27.7 to Ochai's 27.3. Points per game, though, Grady has him by 5. 16.3 for the man from the 316. 11.3 for Ochai. They just combined for 44 against the Wolves the other night. Fun fact. Good stuff there from the Toronto Jayhawks. Moving on.
Really quick, I wanted to say this. I saw a video on Twitter, and it was like this video of Anthony. They're like Anthony Edwards, like goes through 2 defenders or whatever. I'm like, oh, yeah, he just went right through Grady and Ochai. Like those were the 2 defenders that he went through. I was
he
like,
Euroed Grady, and then he like reversed on Ochai. Oh. But they had good offensive games, so I guess that equals out. There is a KU Jayhawk out of this list. Obviously, one of them has to be leading in the points per game category. Out of all NBA Jayhawks, who do you think has scored the most points this season?
Probably CB. He had a really good night the other night. He's starting for the Nuggets, and
he is, indeed.
It's pretty cool to see. I think he had like 16, 18 the other night on national television. So
he did.
It's
not TV, though. Incorrect.
It hasn't
Kelly Oubre Jr. is averaging 21 a game right now for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's also starting. Embiid has not played a game yet. He's been out for the whole season with his injury that nobody knows if it exists or not. But welcome to the Joel Embiid show, everybody. Now, going on to rebounds. Who do you think's got the rebounds title? Knowing Joel is not in. He's not played a game. This might surprise you a little bit.
Is it a KU big? Is it a big?
It's a KU wing. 1 year for the Jayhawks.
Is it Grady here?
It's not Grady. Some call him Air Canada. Andrew Wiggins. 8.5. Still on the Warriors, if you were curious. Now, this last one I had is probably no longer relevant. Christian Braun averaging more or less than 12 points per game. He is averaging more than 12 points per game. You were onto that. He is having a very nice season for Denver so far. What do you think that number is, though, Sam? It is more than 12.
Probably like 14 something.
13.5. Yeah, pretty solid. So, good handful of Jayhawks starting in the league. Also a good handful of Jayhawks nobody knows about but us. So, if you do the NBA crossover grid or anything like that, get your Jayhawks in there, man, because those will be 0.01% guessed because, nobody. Well,
Bez, you officially made me look like a dummy, and
Hey, man, I have to say I didn't know those answers. I didn't know them. I would have got Wiggins low key, but you didn't get the great pick one, so you didn't strike out.
I'm just not an NBA guy. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not watching the NBA regular season unless it's something like, okay, Christian Braun is on national television.
Exactly.
Or, maybe I'll check out some Raptors games this year with Grady and Ochai starting. But until the playoffs start, and even then, I'm not watching playoff NBA basketball until the finals. So,
especially this year, when your Wednesday night full freaking college hoops, non-power 5 Wednesday nights, man. So you're locked into that. No time for NBA.
Can't even
Can't
keep
even,
track.
bro.
Well, all right, y'all. That is all we have for you today. We will have another episode out likely later on in the week, kind of going over the Washburn exhibition, anything that comes from that. And then it's full go. November 4th is the start of the Kansas basketball season. We also expect a pretty big commit to start off November as well. So we got a lot coming up here, and we will keep you updated, informed throughout the whole entire college basketball